Hi, my name is Lucy Fitzpatrick, and welcome today to our presentation, Language and Skills Building, Adjusting Service Delivery During the COVID Pandemic. I'd like to acknowledge the land that I am standing on today is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people, is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. I also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaties, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. Today, I have my co-managers, and we will discuss the program adjustments across our sites in Peel and Toronto. First, we will have Clara, who is the program manager for language in Peel. She is the program manager and will talk about LINC as well as the CNC program. Second, I as LINC manager will talk about the Toronto program in LINC and CNC. And finally, Tanya, who is our employment access program manager in Toronto, will talk about her ELT and EAP programs in Toronto. So I'm going to pass it over to Clara to talk about Catholic Crosscultural Services, our organization, which is located in both Toronto and Peel. Clara?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased with my colleagues to be here today and share a few of our experiences. And we will start with the agency, Catholic Cross-Cultural Services, who we are and what we do. Our agency was founded in 1954, and we provide services that assist in the settlement and integration of immigrants and refugees. We provide assistance at no cost to all newcomers, regardless of their race, religion, country of origin, or immigration status. Catholic Cross-Cultural Services provides lots of, as it was mentioned, services in the Scarborough area, GTA, and in the Peel region area, in Mississauga and in Brampton. So we have 8 locations across these two service regions. So we provide settlement services, referral and information orientation to settlement services. We have English language classes that run every day through the LINC program and CNC program, Care for Newcomer Services, and also we have Family Literacy program, which supports the language classes and the child care team. Also, we have employment services and sector-specific language training with placements. An important part in our deliveries is also women's support services that provide lots of support to abused and women in violence. Also, we have training and support to groups sponsoring refugees. And this is a national program that all are, and many teams, many team members, they are collocated across the country. We also have Newcomer Mental Health that supports those who are vulnerable and need that assistance. And sorry, we have connections also to community resources, because we provide services to our clients, to our students across the different communities. And this is done through more than 34 languages that our staff and our team members, they speak, and they give their help through interpretation, translation, and everyday services. Now I'm going to talk about my program, where I support the team in the Peel region, in Mississauga, and in Brampton. In the Peel region, we have three locations. 2 are in Mississauga, and 1 is in Brampton. We have 15 classes from literacy to CLB 8 in these locations, and we have 220 plus students every day in our classrooms. And we have 15 instructors. They are dedicated studying and teaching daytime and evening from Monday to Friday. And we have from Monday to Thursday, we have from 9 in the morning until 8 at night. And this includes the classes and also childcare. And our childcare team is 10 members that support and help 55 children during the day. And also a great support to these two main programs, the classrooms and childcare, is the family literacy program. And we have one staff, full-time employee worker, and she supports 3 locations with resources, with material, with the library that we have set up, and lending books and materials and reading times and activities that take place on daily basis. And also we have a LINC admin team of 3 members that support each of these 3 locations, the visitors and students and clients, and also the staff members. Now I'll mention a little bit about our program, how we shifted, kind of how we moved to this extraordinary reality with so many unknowns, I think, for all of us, and at the moment with not much solutions at hand. Okay, so when we were faced with this new reality, we right away we had to strategize and to think of how fast we could redirect our services and our delivery of services, and how fast and efficiently we could support our students, our parents, and our children. And the first thing, our strategy that we implemented right away, was finding the capacity and the capabilities and the strengths and the skills and the experiences our teams had. And with that, the commitment and this strategy, we used to reconnect the team's best efforts to shift to this new model. I think it helped us to get closer to our students and parents and children in very short period of time. And all the students hearing from us, they were so overwhelmed to hear from us, and also they started to be encouraged and to gain confidence, and they continue to do so even at present. They are quite focused. They've been learning and collaborating and networking with the program, with our settlement teams, with the employment teams, and also networking with one another. And we have been seeing this progress also in their language skills, that they've been improving and progressing during all this period of time. And interesting is that we, many of our students, or most of our students, they stayed with us, students and parents, and all along this critical time. Also, the enrollment and the attendance has been very good, consistent, and we are pleased with that, because still we continue to deliver the services and to support them, and stay kind of committed to serving the students. And we have employed so many new platforms and new models and resources and methods that have been optimized so well through the language training curriculum, that we have every day that the platforms run smooth. Avenue, we've been using Avenue. It's across all our classrooms, and students are very, very eager to be participating, and not only participating or joining, but also being an active part of with their assignments and tasks, submitting them on good time, and communicating with their teachers. So all these platforms and resources that we've been employing have been working very well. PBLA assessments and planning, needs assessment, student interests and goals, alignment with their CLBs, that teachers have been cooperating closely among each other, but also with students, have been very, very important learning tools. And during this year, what we saw, especially in the initial months, many of our vulnerable students had no access or availability of any learning tools, computers or laptops. So we were offered through an emergency funding funds program through United Way. We were offered Chromebooks, and we lent them to our students, and they are learning and they are improving. They are very excited to have this support, because that's the best tool that they can learn virtually. And also we had great partnership with a vendor who reuse computers and technology, and they donate. And we had lots of donations from them, and also from our staff members. We had some laptops that were donated, and all these have been delivered to our students who are studying and feeling very how to say, encouraged that they are able to study not anymore through their cell phones. Now, so our program has also runs childcare services, and that was one of the sectors, I think, that might be across many language training providers, that during all their life or experiences they work with children on the floor, kind of in face to face, and shifting and really redirecting their work to online was certainly, as everyone else, but more for them, it was a challenge and very very kind of strange, but also interesting experience for them, because during this time, being in front of a computer, and they felt that now they need to reconnect with their parents and reconnect with their kids. And that was kind of, it has been amazing that how fast they try to first to gain some good technology experience and training, and alongside that to work with parents and to work with children, the help and assistance in supporting parents at this time with lots of instructions and suggestions and advice, and tasks and assignments for parents to work with children in explaining to them the development of whole child, because that's the how to say, the image of a childcare program, that they work and they support in the development of the whole child, and working one-on-one with families on a regular basis as needed. Also, we have been supporting them with lots of resources and materials, learning activity kits on a regular basis, depending on each session and topics that childcare team, they have been very, very committed to provide all the resources, all the activities, any materials that relates also to the child well-being, and to mothers, how to deal and to work with their with behavioral issues or with developmental issues of children. And all these resources have helped a lot and continues to support them with all the children they need at this time. And also kind of I mentioned that knowledge, skills, and professional development has been part of this team, childcare team, ongoing process through CMS and the ECE college, and also in-house. We have had so many professional development training on technology, on mental health, and other supports that have helped us to be ready and continue to support our clients and our students and the children. Also, it is, I mentioned at the beginning that part of a very important resource and program that we have within our LINC activity is the family literacy program. The support that teachers and students and children have been receiving during the online learning experience has been very, very helpful to our daytime and evening classes and teachers. We have the book club reading time sessions that takes place within the 15 classes, and we have one-on-one support, literacy, digital literacy, and technical information. And we had been working prior to the pandemic on two great projects that related to database repository and also digital literacy. And at this time, I think more than ever, I think these two projects have worked very well as educational components in helping the teachers first with materials and resources, online resources, to help them with their students at different CLB levels and classes, and the one-on-one support technology, how when we have new students, how they can join the class, helping them with signing up or with how to use the computer, even initial steps. But we see that the progress and the support from the family literacy program has been very, very helpful, and delivery of workshops and presentations, information sessions that we have had all along in-house, and also external community partners, especially at this time, have helped a lot in meeting the needs of our students, but also their interests, because many of them, we see that many of them, they continue to study, but at the same time, some of them, they are looking for employment and they are getting employment, and that's very positive. And the partnerships and the community or even in-house sessions that we have had have helped a lot and supported a lot for these career-related or goal-related or interest and needs related to our clients.
I think, Clara, did you want to add here? I'm not sure if things got mixed up. Some of the lessons learned that from the beginning until now, what you've learned.
Okay, now
or some of the best practices.
And I mentioned there kind of what we've learned, that moving even at difficult times, kind of working with the team and having a strong team and collaboration and close support to one another, and putting together the strengths and the skills and the experience. I think that is a great lesson learned for all of us, and also learn value the team potential and trust. I think commitment is built on established strong mutual trust, and that has worked so well, because building that or not really showcasing but strengthening this trust among our team, and how we can rely and lean and support one another. I think that has given way to support and to give that trust to and commitment to our students. I think these have been kind of very, very good lessons learned for us. And first, it's important that we look at our teams, because if we don't have a strong team, we can never be that strong and support and deliver what we are supposed to deliver to our needy students and clients.
Okay, I know there are a few questions for Clara. What I will do is I'll do my presentation about LINC because it also has some similar things to Clara, and then we can take the questions because I do know that some of the questions relate to Avenue and that. So at the end of my part, then we'll take some of the LINC questions, I would say. So, you know, I want to apologize for first at the beginning because, you know, not seeing people and the participants, it was a little, I think I was a little shell shocked in the beginning. Um, and I'm sure that you're not learning anything new here today. I know for me, I've been managing LINC for the past 14 years, but I started 1 year ago at CCS. And when I started at CCS, it was, I haven't met most of my staff. I haven't even met my boss. And one thing that I was amazed at is to see the progress, to see what staff were doing online, to build on what Clara had said about, you know, the staff working together and really to see what they could accomplish. So in Toronto, we have 10 classes from literacy to CLB 6. I have 2 locations, so they're both in Scarborough. That one is at Markham and Ellesmere, and the other one is at Birchman and Eglinton. We were to have 3 hybrid classes. So our classes were meant to be partially online as well as in class or in person. However, due to the COVID, that didn't pan out. So people were basically, the staff were thrown into online classes. We also have 4 Care for Newcomer Children programs, meaning that our classes take place in the daytime, so it's full-time, but then the afternoon is considered part-time. So we have roughly 36 children and 13 staff there. And in our LINC, we do have 11 staff. We have the full-time, part-time classes, our family literacy, as well as Clara had mentioned, they have family literacy. We also have our family literacy program. So everything went online. The family literacy, they had started with activity packets. So they put together packages for the families in the LINC program and in the CNC program. These packages, the parents came to pick them up at the centers and Birchmount and at our Markham office. And the teachers, I think, were given about 2 weeks to prepare before they actually went online. Most use Zoom, but not all. I know there was one teacher started with Skype because that's what he was familiar with. However, later on, they did switch to Zoom because it seemed that Zoom was the platform that a lot of people were using. The Zoom platform we were using was mostly the 40-minute free program. So everyone signed up for their own free program. So the family literacy worker, as well as all the instructors, did sign up for the Zoom program. We ourselves then purchased some extended or unlimited accounts or license accounts so that it was unlimited. So not limited to 40 minutes because the classes were ranging from about 1.5 to 2 hours online versus 3.5 to 5 hours in person. But the teachers were having to break up classes to 40 minutes, take a break, 40 minutes. So you can imagine how, you know, difficult that was. Students were having to log on then they get kicked out, they'd have to log back in. As well for instructors, they were having to do the same. They were having to arrange their schedules based on the client needs. So with 20 students in their class, it was trying to say, okay, if your class is from 8:30 to 1:30, what's the best timing? So they came up with, you know, the most popular time or the most sought after time. And within that, they had to also plan time for self-study. Or self-guided work here. They were using ESL Library and EduLink in the beginning, which is now Avenue. And I do know there is a question later about Avenue. Avenue, all of our teachers are starting to use it now. I think for literacy, however, there's a lot of growing pains, a lot of learning. It's very cumbersome for the staff, but they've been using it. And it's easier for them to keep track for their students' work. They had to make sure that they were still doing their PBLA assessments. So they use the support from the family literacy worker actually for a lot of these. So sometimes they had to do one-on-ones, or they would break students into groups and breakout rooms to do assessments. And sometimes the family literacy worker would come into the class to help support the teachers if and when they were doing assessments. The assessments aren't, it's not the best for doing online, especially when it's writing, because many students are not coming on camera. We were finding students, as Clara had said as well, we were finding students that had limited or very sketchy or very, their Wi-Fi or their internet wasn't, stable. They're using their cell phones. Sometimes they have family members at home. They have children at home studying. So they didn't want to come on camera and they're muted. So imagine teachers, they're finding it very difficult because they're not able to tell if the students are actually online or not, because you see them. You don't see them, you see their name, and often their names are not their names, it's their children's name or someone else, because they're using shared devices. Within the virtual delivery time, if their class was 8:30 to 1:30, we had decided to do the CNC time within the LINC time. So what happened was that the CNC staff were in contact with the LINC instructors to find out when the LINC instructors were doing their class. Then they connected with the parents to embed the CNC into that timing. So normally CNC would take place, yes, where the parents are in class and the CNC would have the children for 3.5 to 5 hours. However, that's not possible. You can't have a 2-year-old sit down in front of a computer or tablet for 3.5 to 5 hours with a staff member. So they decide to work with the parents. The staff broke up the program. So if they have 5 parents, they split that each staff member would take a parent, would take a family. They would meet with the family. They would find out their individual needs. They even worked with infants, which is hard to believe at 6 months old that they were able to work, but they would do so through music, through visuals, but it's mostly working with the parents. So they delivered them through Zoom. I think a couple had tried a few other platforms in the beginning, maybe even WhatsApp. They do short daily sessions. And I know right now during Ramadan, some of these sessions have been moved. So staff have been quite flexible in the delivery of their time. So maybe they were delivering sessions in the afternoon. Now, because of Ramadan, some of them have asked, can you come on at 9 a.m.? So staff are still working within their number of teaching hours, but they've shifted to the morning to help accommodate our family needs at this time. In the beginning, along with the family literacy, we prepared take-home activity packages, and they're still doing this. This has been done on an ongoing basis. We've been sending home, of course, coloring sheets, crayons, lots of arts and crafts. However, we're working towards building them now based on skill building, whether it would be gross motor or sensory. So staff, we've been doing a lot of, cross-site planning, which I think this is something that we've learned, that we're in Birchmount, we're in Markham, but nowadays we can do cross-site collaborations. as Clara had said, a lot more working together. So as I had said, it's more working with individual families. We're also working on doing workshops for parents. We did do some on healthy eating, and we worked with other staff at CCS, our settlement staff, to do some sessions. We worked with our mental health team as well to do some sessions with both our LINC classes as well as our CNC parents. And we also worked with Tanya's program, small business supports as well, to come in to provide information to our students. So the family literacy worker, as I said, she did the reading club. She did some reading sessions in the LINC classes, circle times with the CNC program, but more so nowadays, she's doing the one-on-one support. So we actually have a new staff that came in January for family literacy. So she's been working a lot more with digital literacy support to new students, because what we're finding with LINC, it's continuous intake. So when we get new students to our class, maybe, yes, they're familiar with using computers, but they're maybe not as familiar with using Zoom. So she's been sometimes attending the LINC class, but going in a breakout room with some of the students so that the teacher can continue teaching and not, fall behind with those that are that need some of the extra support. And another thing she had done was a wellness checks or wellness chats with our clients, because we do find that there's a lot of people, they're isolated at home, and it's much more than learning English. We've had some students that haven't even left their apartments since COVID started, and they need a lot more supports. So one thing, we've identified some of the different needs within our clients. And I know for my program, and then I'll have Clara speak, is that during Christmas break, we were closed for a month. And as manager, my staff were off, but I could tell that the students still needed help and support. So we decided to run, the family literacy worker and myself decided to run some conversation classes. So we ran it twice a week for 3 weeks. And we had about 12 students show up a day for each session. And sometimes they just want to chat. They want to talk about COVID. They want to talk about how to be happy. And we did a lot of sharing information. I know teachers are doing, one teacher is doing Zoom sessions, a Zoom session on yoga or fitness on Fridays. So sometimes they've switched up their classes. So we've learned, we have to be, of course, the technology, digital literacy is a must. We've helped students, as Clara said, get laptops through the library, through RCT. The PBLA assessments, evaluations, they're difficult to carry out online. We need to use different formats, not one size fits all for people, for this students. We have to be flexible in our class time. We need to have a balance of virtual and self-led programming for the students, but also teachers. We need to have a balance of work life, I think, right now, because we all seem to be working a lot more than we were when we were in the office. We've learned, though, the opportunities, some of the benefits, that now probably in the future we can live stream. So we've often had, a lot of classes had low attendance because people were sick, their kids were sick, they had to go for a meeting, or a doctor's appointment. So there's probably the opportunity to do some live streaming. The hybrid classes, which we were to pilot this year, there's definitely an option now to look at that differently as well, because it was meant to be part online and part in person, but maybe there's opportunities for some people, if they can't physically come into the center, we could stream for them. And I think one thing that I've learned from my staff and myself, self-reflection and to think nothing's impossible. We've learned a lot about our staff and our participants in the past year. So Clara, did you want to add anything else to what you've learned from your programs?
I think, yeah, we covered. I just wanted to add perhaps, and it is maybe part of that of a question, that with the PBLA and with the Avenue, we, in fact, in our program, we have a few years ago, we had smart boards in all the classrooms. And I think that has been a big advantage, especially during this year, because students and teachers, they got accommodated so well with resources and with lots of activities they could do on daily basis with the smart board. And I think that has that helped them a lot slowly, even when we shifted to Avenue. First, we started with LINC last year, and then in August we moved to slowly to in October to Avenue. And I think this has helped the teachers and the students to move smoothly with Avenue, though it's a new platform, but it's an amazing platform where students now, they feel very, very at ease using that and accessing their files, assessments and tasks that they complete every day. And the family literacy support. She's a teacher herself, and she's very tech savvy. And some of our teachers, they are tech savvy. So moving to Zoom and to Google Classroom and to LINC and ESL library, using all these resource platforms, I think this helped the students to use them and employ them very comfortably. And for sure, as you, Lucy, mentioned, that we have been accommodating our students according to their time availability. We know many parents, they are working with their children, school children, studying and learning and supporting their children at home. Some that go to school, but they have younger children, or families who have many children, and they are not able to attend on a regular basis whenever the class is, or whenever the Zoom classroom or the activity is taking place. But we have been moving along our schedules. The teachers, an evening teacher, let's say, starts twice the classroom, earlier and later in the evening, so that we have parents who are working but they want to attend the class. And that's where we have been balancing very well their needs and their timing.
Thank you, Clara. Yes, I do agree that one of the biggest things is the flexibility, and staff at CCS have been great in accommodating our clients' needs, which is the most important thing, because it is a student-centered, child-centered, and even Tanya, when she now will talk about her programming, the number one thing is our clients. We have to think about them, because without them, none of us would be here. And I think that's why our programs, maybe there's low enrollment, because if you look at the assessment centers across the country, there's been very low testing. And but once we get our students, we try to keep them and support. That is most important these days. So thank you, Clara. And next, we're going to have Tanya and talk about her program, and hopefully my computer won't freeze again. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Lucy and Clara. I am Tanya, and my official title is Employment Access Program Manager. So I manage a suite of employment-related services that are all IRCC funded. I'll first speak about ELT for International Trained Healthcare Professionals. So this is a sector-specific language training, and we work with newcomers with CLB 6+. We provide Canadian workplace culture, alternative careers exploration, networking opportunities, work experience placements in healthcare facilities, and first aid and CPR certification. With the work experience placements, those are mandatory in the sense that all clients get a placement. So I know with some programs, there's an option where you would say clients may get a placement. The way our program is designed, all clients automatically have the opportunity to get a placement in a healthcare facility. Now, like LINC and what Clara and Lucy mentioned, the ELT program was primarily designed to be delivered in person. So whereas Lucy mentioned in LINC, there was a plan to take some classes hybrid, we had not gotten there as yet with ELT. The plan was to continue to offer this in person until maybe a few years down the road, then we would think of hybrid. But of course, with COVID, that had to change. So what what our shift to COVID during COVID looks like for us for ELT was that we had to begin offering this online, including placements. And I'll go into details with that shortly. I also manage the language training for newcomers, and this is also an occupation-specific language training program that supports newcomers with CLB 2 to 4, with Canadian workplace culture, occupation-specific language training, networking opportunities, and work experience placements in early on Ontario centers, which are childcare and family centers, and the community kitchen if they're doing food handling. Clients also get first aid and CPR certification from this program. With ELT, what our shift to virtual delivery looked like is we optimized the curriculum for online delivery, and we have been delivering this using Zoom. So what our optimization looked like is the teacher and myself, we connected and we sort of looked at what are the activities that existed in the program that we could easily take and just basically almost like a package thing, take and repurpose to do it online. And what would be the activities that would be either impossible or challenging to offer online. And then we sort of went back to the curriculum to see, you know, how is this being delivered in person? What would make it challenging online? And what were the sort of trade-offs that we would need to make? So like Lucy and Clara mentioned, and I know for most language service providers, one of the main challenges would be writing. So the challenge with writing is it's not that the students will not do the writing assignment, it's just you wonder whether it's their authentic work, right? So you're giving them a writing assignment in class and you're there to see them write it. So you know that this is being produced by them. But online, when you're giving someone an assignment, you're not 100% sure that the student is able to, that student is producing it on their own. We also offer in the ELT program CNC sessions, and we had to time shift these sessions. So the reason for that is the ELT program is offered twice per year. So in the spring, it's offered evenings from 6:30 to 9:30. And in the fall, it's offered on weekends from 10 a.m. to 4:45 p.m., Saturdays and Sundays. So with our shift to virtual delivery for the classes, we were faced with the challenge of saying, okay, most parents tend to have one device that they're using for classes as well as for the children. How are they going to be participating in the ELT classes and also having the students participate, having their children, participate in the activities? So what we looked at was some form of time shifting where the staff would reach out to parents once they're registered for CNC and connect with each parent to see what time of day works best for their child. And then we try to see if we could work that into a staff schedule. So again, going back to what Lucy and Clara mentioned, flexibility has been a key piece of our programming. So with our evening session, what that ended up looking like was we would facilitate the ELT in class from 6:30 to 8:30, and parents who were not necessarily having a challenge doing CNC activities after 8:30, they would connect with the CNC team after that. For parents who would think that 8:30 is a little late for their children, we would try to have our CNC activities between 5 and 6 p.m. That way it gives the parents some time to take a break and then prepare for their ELT classes. With the CNC, we use Zoom as well as WhatsApp, really depending on what was happening with the parents. So Zoom worked well for the most part, but for some parents, we had a couple of parents that were not in Toronto and actually not in Canada. So WhatsApp had to be the choice that we used because that just worked better for them. What we did, except for parents who were outside of Canada, we provided parents with an activity bags at the start of the cohort. And that bag had anything from paintbrushes to chalk to Play-Doh to books to practice lettering, really depending on the age of the child. Another thing that we did with regard to the activity bags is once the parents registered children for a CNC, once the CNC workers had that initial contact with them, in addition to confirming the age and sex of the child, what the CNC staff would do would be to check in with the parents to see what activities would you like your child to participate in. You know, are there particular areas that you might be having a challenge with where your child is you think would be useful? What we found that a lot of parents who were preparing kids to go to school wanted to practice things such as tracing and lettering, etc. So we would basically have the bags packed with the materials that they needed for these particular activities. One challenging piece of delivering our ELT was a CPR and first aid piece, because traditionally, again, the provider that we use provided this in person. The provider also shifted to a hybrid model. So what that looked like is we were able to enroll clients in a blended course where the requirement would be that they complete an online portion, which was basically theoretically based. They would do this, and then we would arrange at some point in time for them to come on site to do the practical piece in order for them to get their certification. And this first aid CPR in particular for ELT is specifically geared to healthcare professionals. So we were sort of lucky that when the first cohort in the spring ended, the lockdowns were lifted in the summer, and we were able to use that tiny window where we were allowed to go back to some sense of normalcy to have students come in to do CPR. And then it ended up being the same thing as well for the ELT weekends. With the ELT weekends, what we also had to do was to do a shift in terms of when we delivered the classes. So with the weekends, in person was meant to be 10 a.m. to 4:45 p.m. Now we knew that there is no way we could have online classes running from 10 a.m. to 4:45 p.m. and have students sit down, as well as an instructor, sit, stand, or do whatever you do in your online piece for that long, especially under the circumstances that we're all locked down and your entire family is home. So what we did, we approached, we checked in with the staff firstly to see, you know, what were our options. And what we came up with was a modified weekend delivery where we did 2 evenings per week and at 3 hours each, and then Saturdays and Sundays at 3 hours each, making it a weekend/evening delivery. Once we sort of figured that out, that okay, this would work, we end up with the same total number of hours for the curriculum, we connected with IRCC to see if this will be allowed, and they did allow this to happen. So that worked quite well for us as well. The challenging piece in ELT delivery really has been placements. Despite the fact that healthcare workers are considered essential workers as far as the pandemic is concerned, a lot of our placement partners just did not want to have volunteers on site, or were not allowed to have volunteers on site because of lockdown restrictions. We did have a few partners that were able to provide us with virtual placements, in the sense that clients who are more looking towards placement that are more research related, we were able to provide them with support there. Some of our clinics, they were open and they took a few volunteers from us. So clients were able to get that type of placement. And also for clients who were pharmacists, well, not all pharmacists, but 2 pharmacists that we work with as our placement partners, they were able to take some students on to provide them with placement hours. What we found interesting is that there really were not a lot of opportunities with the placement partners that we work with anyway for virtual activities for our clients. So, one of the things that we sort of thought it would be, a lot of doctors' offices were offering virtual appointments, they were doing virtual screenings. So we sort of thought this might have been an opportunity for our international trained healthcare participants to sort of get some sort of exposure to the Canadian healthcare system through that. But this was really challenging. And it really went back to not that the placement partners were unwilling. It's just that they themselves did not have this system set up, right? They were also trying to find their footing in this new virtual world that we live in. So they didn't really have anything in place where they could say, okay, fine, we're already doing this. Sure, this is how we would onboard your clients. So that was sort of surprising to an extent, but again, with the pandemic, nothing really has been surprising. So with our language training childminding, our shift to online delivery was not as seamless as ELT. One of the things that we have sort of discovered is that digital literacy seems to go hand in hand with your language capability. So what we have found is that the higher levels, for in our case, the ELT clients, they were already using Zoom. Most persons had a laptop or a tablet or some device, and they were pretty much tech savvy enough to be able to access online services. Our language training clients with their CLB 2 to 4 were not very digitally literate. So initially, when we started our first cohort in May of 2020, we delivered this using WhatsApp. So our instructor downloaded the WhatsApp onto her computer, and we had clients, basically, we added them to a WhatsApp group, and the instructor went in for the first 2 or 3 weeks, I believe, and did the classes through WhatsApp video calls, and then connected with clients individually to ensure that persons understood the assignments and that they really understood the material that was being shared. As time progressed, we sort of experimented with different things, and we landed on Microsoft Teams. So the reason why we use Microsoft Teams is because CCS is already using Outlook. So Microsoft Teams is already built into the services that we have and our technical capabilities. We use Teams internally as employees here to communicate with our teams inside of CCS. So we sort of experimented and say, okay, how could we use this for students? So there is Microsoft Teams for Education. That is not the Teams that we're using. We're actually just using Microsoft Teams. I don't have a term for it, so I'm going to say the general Microsoft Teams. And what we do is at the start of the cohort, we add each client to the team, and we provide them with a binder that has the childminding or the food handling material that they need for the entire course. Why we worked with Teams is we found that, unlike Zoom, once you're added to a team, you can go in and access the files or the material that you have on that team at your leisure. So, we have classes 2 hours per day of contact with the instructor and the group. And then there's an hour where students are expected to do their own work. And we're able to upload assignments. If the teacher shares a PowerPoint, it's added to Microsoft Teams. And again, clients can look at this at 3 a.m. in the morning if they choose to. Classes are from 10 to 12 daily. If a client wants to look at the work and do some self-study just before class, they have that access. It really works well for these low language level learners because again, with low digital literacy, we're not having to send assignments through emails. We do not use Avenue or EduLink in any of the language training programs. So clients are not logging on to an additional platform. Yes, we still communicate by sending emails for crucial program updates, but in general, all our communication and all our facilitation is done using Microsoft Teams. And as I said, it's really a one-stop shop where clients can get all the information they need. So, you know, for example, if a client is not able to come to class for whatever reason, or if a client is going to be late, they can go to Teams at any point in time and leave a message for the teacher to say, you know, teacher, I will not be here tomorrow. So you sort of know that. So again, they're not, you know, having to navigate using all these different technology and platforms for various things. For the food handling, this was scheduled for the summer, so July of 2020 to be specific. And we were able to pilot live streaming as a lockdown was lifted. So what that looked like was there were quite a few students in this cohort who kept asking, you know, why can't we come to the office? Why don't we have class? They, of course, because of lower language level, would sometimes have challenges. I would, for example, I have students reaching out to me to say, I can't log into Microsoft Teams. I can't turn my laptop on, various things. And I would have to find ways to connect with them, which sometimes, especially once the lockdown was lifted, this would require us coming into the office and basically booking appointments with clients to help them with the technical support. So with that, based on the needs of the students, as well as what we realized, we decided to pilot live streaming. And what that looked like was we had the students in the classroom 1 day per week, social distance, of course. And that class had the students and the instructor, and then the rest of the students who were not able to be in the office due to capacity restrictions for the room, or due to the fact that they had childcare or job or whatever other restrictions that prevented them from coming in. That session was actually live streamed to participants that were not on site. So everybody still felt like they were a part of this one class. That worked well for the most part, except as you guys are aware, the lockdowns, we were placed back into lockdown. So there went the live streaming option. But at least we know that it's something that has potential in the future. And I believe we all in some sense feel that social distancing will become part of whatever a new normal is. So live streaming might be actually becoming one of the standards practices that we use anyway for supporting our newcomers. With language training, our CNC sessions were also time shifted, and they were delivered using Zoom or WhatsApp, really, again, being dependent on the parents' access to devices and what works for them. Parents were also provided with activity bags at the start of the cohort. For CPR and first aid, there is no blended option available for the language training clients, mainly because they're doing the standard first aid and CPR, and at least with the provider that we work with and another provider that we reached out to, they did not have a hybrid option available for standard first aid and CPR. So again, when the lockdown was lifted, we were able to have students on site to complete the first aid and CPR training, which again, it's only a 3-hour training. So that window worked well. We had to social distance students. It ended up working out quite nicely because with CCS being operating minimally, we were able to spread clients out and utilize different classrooms and practice proper sanitization and disinfecting protocols for having our in-person first aid and CPR sessions. For placements for our language training program, this has still been outstanding. We have not been able to secure any food handling placements, again, because of lockdown restrictions. And for childminding, we actually, in the last quarter of last year, we were able to work with the Boys and Girls Club of East Scarborough, who provides us with partnerships. We're able to get clients participating in virtual activities as sort of like a modified placement for our childminding folks. So what did we learn? As I mentioned before, we now know that there's a strong link between digital literacy and language capability. And it's really important for us to meet the clients where they are, right? So with the language training clients, for example, this had meant things like having clients physically bring their laptop or their tablet or their cell phone in the office and having someone work with them to install Microsoft Teams. Some of our language training clients, again, with CLB 2 to 4, do not even have an email, and it's really challenging to speak with someone on the phone and try to get them to set up an email. It doesn't matter what provider, be it Yahoo, Hotmail, or Gmail. So again, it's like we have really found that it's really important to understand the challenges that clients have and find creative ways to support them. We also learned that it's flexibility is really key. When we started our language training program in May of 2020, we actually drove to clients' homes and left the binders for them because there were so many clients that just were not in a position to leave their house, either because of risk or because kids were home as well. We also noticed that in terms of placements for both ELT and the language training program, clients had varying views regarding placements. There were some clients who point blank said, and this was more towards ELT, I'm not going to any placement unless it's virtual because I don't want to catch COVID from a clinic or a hospital or whatever. And then there were some other clients thinking that, oh, this is awesome. So now that we're on the lockdown, I will really get an opportunity to explore like what healthcare looks like in Canada. So again, we really had to be responsive to the needs of clients, because though placement is a mandatory component of the program, you have to look at the context that we're living in, and you can't force clients to say, well, you know, if we secure a placement for you, you have to attend. We also realized that there is an increased need for wraparound support. So one of the things that I was able to do was to work with Employment Ontario to use employment supports to provide clients with devices, as well as Clara and Lucy mentioned, through our UW funding, we were able to develop our own digital device lending library where we support clients with Chromebooks. They use them once the session is done, or if for some reason they have to drop out of the session, they return it. We sanitize it, remove their account, and lend it to whoever else is on the waiting list. What we also noticed is employment still remains a priority for so many clients. So with all the challenges that we're all facing, but vulnerable groups in particular, clients, they still want to be employed, right? They still want jobs. And we also noticed that, you know, there are still jobs out there. There are a lot of sectors that are still recruiting, particularly after the December period. We saw once the vaccine became available, there are a lot of opportunities, either volunteer or paid opportunities for vaccine screeners, etc. And I think that is it in terms of the employment piece. We'll go ahead now and answer the questions. Okay, so I have a question here for Clara, and I think Lucy could jump in as well. Someone wants us to comment a little on Avenue and what stood out using Avenue.
Okay. Now I mentioned that we started using, first we started with LINC. We have one of the classes, or 3 classes in Brampton that have been for 10 years. They've been using computer laptops on their daily activity, and they've been using LINC for a long time. And then we had decided that even the other classes that they've not been using LINC, they could slowly move towards that. And knowing that last year by October, November, Avenue was going to replace it. So we had started with that. And when Avenue got ready and was launched, all our teachers, they got the accounts and they started the training, the course. And it has been a great experience, because now the teachers and the students, they have each of the students, they have their files, and also they have the e-portfolios are there, all the assessment, all the tasks, any work that they do, starting with the needs assessment, because initially at the very start of each session, teachers, they sit one-on-one with their students. There is a chart that that our lead, PBLA lead, she has prepared for teachers and for students. And it's very, very convenient and thorough in a way that it has the goals, short-term and long-term goals and needs of each student. And then they go through every day, the students themselves, they go and check, this day I had a test and my assessment was this, I got this mark. And they control, how to say, or they manage their own progress, and everything is on Avenue. It's in their files, so they check.
So it's, it's the learner management system that IRCC have funded. And I know many people, as Clara had said, only a few people were using EduLink in the past, but the Avenue is now meant to replace or has replaced EduLink. And everything will be built in there, even for assessments. Teachers are able to do a lot within there. It's been, time consuming, but it, in the long run, it will be very beneficial, I think.
Yes, yeah, it is very, I think it's one of the best tools right now that we have, and it's expanding a lot, because also CLB, it's kind of, it is with each CLB level, and you have the resources, you have the training, lots of events that take place there that teachers use. And that's where that's what has been standing out. And I, interestingly, 2 days ago, I had a call from someone, a client, and wanted to register with us. And I was asking those general questions that we asked for the client. Has she ever been in our program or been assessed, and all that kind of initial information, good for us to know. And then while discussing, she started asking that, I want to be in a class where Avenue, a teacher runs Avenue, uses Avenue. And I said, what do you mean? I said, I want, because I've heard through word of mouth, I've heard that that there is a very good platform that people are starting, and teachers are working with Avenue. And I said, yes, we have that. And it was surprising, but good question in a way, that whoever they have heard from one another, that this platform is taking the lead, I think.
It's a lot of work, but it's definitely a benefit to both the client and the teacher. Okay,
Thanks,
I think
Clara,
we have
Lucy.
6 more questions. Yeah.
I'll go to the next question. So someone was asking, how were we able to overcome the challenge of dealing with toddlers and younger kids using online platforms for CNC? So Lucy, Clara, do you guys want to take that?
Yeah.
Well, I know the teachers, I'll go first. The teachers or CNC staff had connected with the parents, and it's mostly working with parents, together with the children. You can't work alone with the children. So every family, it's been different. And sometimes it may be 5 minutes, but they try, even though the child may not sit down, they continuously do it over and over so that they're getting used to it. And the children are behaving. They give activities for the families to do in advance. So they send home maybe like this week's tasks in an email. This are the things you need. So the parents do a lot of it with their children. And then when they come online, then they show what they've done. They do reading and singing, but it's really working with the families.
And I want to add here just quickly. And beside that also, many parents, they've been comfortable using WhatsApp. And through that, they have been communicating with the parents and childcare staff and the child, kind of the three of them communicating and engaging kind of in videos. The mom would show a video of an activity that was given and how the child was kind of enjoying that activity, coloring or cutting something or counting spoons or anything that that the activity was kind of had the instructions. And that had worked pretty good and keeping the parents, I think, with us. We didn't lose any parents, just those who moved from preschool to the public education. That's where we kind of we have been we missed them. They left our program, but overall, because of all these kind of support and way of engaging them, we've been keeping them. They've been kind of staying with us all the time.
Okay, so now the question we have here is how many staff do we have facilitating the one-to-one tech digital literacy support? So we do not, for either of the programs, we do not have a dedicated staff that does this. So in the Employment Access Program, I do that along with one of my team members. And in LINC, it's just a mixture of the program assistant or the instructors. But in terms of having a dedicated person that onboards clients, we are not lucky enough to have that. Speaking about technology, there's another question as well about the Chromebooks to student ratio. So what we did, we got a pot of money and we basically purchased how many Chromebooks we could afford in the sense, right? So whatever money we got, we used it and we were able to purchase, and I'm going to throw a number out there and say it's 20, but I could be wrong.
18, I think.
Yeah, so we purchased that number of Chromebooks and we basically had an application system more by need, in the sense that it's really like if a client did not have a cell phone or any other way to participate in online classes, then we would say that need would be greater than someone who was using their cell phone, and someone who, let's say, was using their cell phone, but there was another computer in the house that they could use, their need would be less. So it was basically, like, as I said, just prioritizing the client's needs, and that's how clients are able to borrow the devices. And once clients are done with that, then they return it and it's sanitized, their information is cleared, and we give it to the next person on the waiting list. I think we are just about running out of time. I believe we may have time for a couple more questions.
So our email addresses are here. So if you have any questions which you would like to send to either Clara, myself, or Tanya, please feel free to do so.
There's one more question I want to address. Someone asked about clients not in Canada. So they're definitely IRCC clients. In our case, because the ELT and the language training program is run specific times per year, we do continuous intake and registration. So in our case, what we had last May was a client had registered for the ELT program that would have been started in May. The client had registered in February, traveled to their home country, and because of COVID restrictions, was not able to return to Canada. So they were able to participate. And then for our second cohort for ELT for the last fiscal, it was the same thing as well. So they're outside of Canada, but they're still IRCC eligible.
And also, I think there was a question if we could share the PowerPoint presentation.
Yes, we will share. So
Yeah, so
I'll email it to
Share.
Sonali so that she is able to share with the participants. But I'm sure, you know, that everything we've said here, a lot of people have tried a lot of the different things. And, you know, I think it's great for organizations to collaborate, to share best practices. And, you know, because if IRCC hears the work that we've been doing, they're hearing it from other people as well. And we know we're not alone when it comes to low numbers and things such as that. Any
And
other
I think
questions?
in our language training providers meetings that we do usually on quarterly basis, we had a few during last year that were like special events where all the providers they came together and sharing and exchanging information and suggestions and experiences. So I think it was great, yeah, because all across it was great to see kind of at this time to see all that communication and collaboration and exchange of all the information and all the experiences that we were having and challengings for sure. Yeah.
Thanks, Lara. I'm not sure where participants are from. So we do have in Toronto our local CPC, Community of Practice Council, or where we meet, the YMCA. They convene language providers, both ELT, LINC, ESL, and we share information, provide stats and things. But also within Toronto, I am also part of LINC managers. We get together with some other language providers to share information, and especially regarding PBLA and now Avenue. So I would suggest that wherever you're located to do the same. And I'd like to thank you for, you know, attending our presentation today. Honestly, this is a little different because you're not able to see anyone. You see there's 40 some odd people participating, but it's like, oh my gosh, I can't see anyone. So it's not the easiest way to do it, but this is how we're able to reach out to you. So thank you, and thanks Clara and Tanya, and to Sonali for helping us today. So the recording, the video will be available. And I know I was able to watch some of the past presentations on the feed loop. So that will be available. I will send Sonali the presentation, and please feel free to reach out to us at CCS. And we thank you very much for coming out today.